wings of my prayer. You're the song of my heart. You're the life of my soul. You're my each day's new start. Singing, let go. Let it flow. God loves you so. You said I don't have time to hurry. I don't have time to pass things by. Each moment in life is precious. Each moment can reach so high. Singing, let go.
Mizmor leDavid, Adonai ro'i lo echsar, binod deshe yarbitzeini, al mei menuchot yenaleini. Nafshi eshovev, nafshi eshovev, yancheini v'maglei tzedek leman shemo. Gam ki elech begeitz al mavet lo yirara ki ata imadi Shivtecha umishantecha Hema yenachamuni Taroch lefanai shulchan Taroch lefanai shulchan Taroch lefanai shulchan neged sorerai Tishanta v'shemen roshi Tishanta v'shemen roshi Tishanta v'shemen roshi kosi revaya ach tov v'chesed yirdefuni kol yemei chayai v'shavti beveit Adonai v'shavti beveit Adonai leorech yamim ay 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 ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay.
Hazan Sandler just chanted the 23rd Psalm in Hebrew. Let's read it together in English, please. Please open your folder to the second page. As we read the 23rd Psalm. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. We gather today to pay kavod acharon, final loving farewell, to David Hoffman. And this reminds me, when we're not sure where to begin, to tell a life story of the opening to Kohelet, for this is indeed a special time. Kohelet reads, L'chol zman va'et, l'chol heves tachat hashemayim. There's a season set for everything, a time for every experience under heaven, a time for planting and a time for reaping, a time for keeping and a time for discarding, a time for loving and a time for hating, a time for embracing and a time for refraining, a time for slaying and a time for healing, a time for laughing and a time for weeping, a time for dancing and a time for wailing, a time for birthing and a time for dying, a time for speaking, a time for silence, a time for seeking and a time for losing. And this moment, this day, is the time to remember him, to speak words of love and praise, and to give a big warm hug to his family who is hurting because they've lost someone incredible. We think of and we support in this difficult time David's beloved wife, Barbara, his brother, Bruce, with Kitty, his children, Brian with Melanie, Lisa with Todd and Devorah, and his many grandchildren, Talia with fiancè Theo, Kayla, Sarah, Emma Jo, Joshua, Samson, and Henry. And it is fitting and appropriate that we gather here today at Bethel to mark the end of his life, for this was his second home. You count the number of hours and Shabbatot and Hagim he spent here, the number goes too high. And in this place made a foundational impact on him and his family. And in turn, David and his family made a tremendous, limitless impact on this community, older, younger, including and especially rabbis. Rabbi Schwab is not able to be here today. He so wishes he could. But he wants me very much to read words of love and reflection about David, who inspired him. These are Rabbi Schwab's words, Senior Rabbi. What always amazed me about David was his heartfelt sincerity. Regarding Judaism, you could see and feel this through the devotion to seeking God in all manners, in his acts of chesed, kindness, through passionate study and through a heartfelt prayer. His acts of religiosity were not mere words, they were expressions of the soul, filled with kavanah, sincerity, and love. When near David, one could sense the presence of sanctity, someone walking humbly with God, always striving, always yearning, always connected. And this was his way when connecting with the people in his life as well. His eyes locked on yours, his smile full and genuine, his hug strong and full of love, his words shared with kindness, interest, and wisdom. I have known David for my full 21 years here at Bethel, and during the times he was full-time up north, I saw him every Shabbat. Bethel was his and his family's home, second home. Here, he and Barbara built community and friendships through the Couples Club, raising their kids in our congregation, as well as through davening, celebrating holidays, and Shabbat. I know from our many conversations how much he appreciated Judaism, the meaning and depth of the holidays and Shabbat, and the wisdom of our sacred Jewish texts. His love, his relationship, his treasure, Barbara, was incredible. It was a true love of respect, admiration, and partnership. David made me feel like a family member and his friend, and respected me as a rabbi, even though there were many years between us. I send so much love and comfort to the family. My heart goes out to you. The world is a poorer place without him, but he has left us a legacy of love and wisdom to guide us forward. Yehi Zikro Baruch, may his memory be a blessing. Amen. Rabbi Vernon Kurz of Jerusalem was the senior rabbi here for so many years, who got to know David so closely. And in his last days, David called Rabbi Kurz to ask for special words and a blessing. And Rabbi Kurz asked if I could share these words here today. On Sunday, Barbara was in touch with me in Jerusalem and asked me to offer a blessing to David during his last hours on earth. She held the phone to his ear, and I know he heard me because he said, Todah Rabbah. And these are some of my words. Last Shabbat, Parsha Naso, we read the priestly blessing, which David offered his children every Friday night. The words are so familiar to all of us. May God bless you and keep you. David felt especially blessed with a wonderful close family, many friends, respect for the community, and those with whom he worked. He felt blessed in engaging in work that he loved, changing the face of our community for the better. May the Lord shine his light upon you and be gracious to you. David loved all things Jewish. He loved to study Torah and grow in his understanding of God and tradition. He was a very spiritual person who attempted to find a close relationship with his Maker. He gave back to the community here at Bethel and Schechter, enabling others to do the same. May the Lord shine his face upon you and grant you peace. I would interpret the word shalom, the final word, as wholeness and fulfillment. I told David he should feel fulfilled by the life he led and the legacy he leaves behind for others. He fulfilled his life's mission on earth by making it a better place than when he entered. To Barbara, the family, and the entire Bethel community, Bryna and I express our condolences and send our love. May we share only Besorot Tovot, good news with one another in the future. Amen. David's impact was limitless, beginning with the rabbis, the community, but of course it starts and ends at home. We're going to now hear words of love, reflection, and tribute from his children, Brian, Lisa, and Devorah. Brian. Yeah. It's a better mic.
Thank you. As the rabbi said, thank you, Rabbi. Yesterday was a day for dying. Today is a day for speaking. My dad was an incredible man, a larger-than-life character who lived a deeply Jewish life, but also very much on his own terms. As I reread this eulogy, I'll admit that, no surprise, it failed to capture any of my father's incredible dry sense of humor. The peals of laughter that his wit elicited from me and so many others who he loved are an indelible aspect of who he was. I hope the following helps to broaden your sense of my amazing dad. So a little Torah to start with. Vayu chaye Sarah 100 shana v'esrim shana v'sheva shanim shnei chaye Sarah. These were Sarah's lives. 127 years were the two lives of Sarah. This pasuk from Genesis always made me think of my dad, because in so many ways, he also enjoyed two lives. I confess that I began composing this eulogy 32 years ago when he had his first heart attack. There were two lives there also, the one before that fateful December day in 1992, and the blessing of the other one, where he cherished the gift of each day and brightened the lives of all who came into his orbit. Dad was born in 1942 to Estelle and Ben Hoffman. Theirs was an atypical union, being of Russian and Bohemian origins. Atypical for the time. My grandfather was fighting in World War II when Dad was born and was absent until 1945. They enjoyed a complicated relationship after his absence. during Dad's formative years. But that experience both shaped and drove my dad to significant achievements. My grandparents weren't wealthy, and my dad started working at an early age. He told fond stories of the tips he would make doing deliveries for a local pharmacy. He loved the feel of some coins or a few dollars in his pocket and truly felt on top of the world, enjoying the fruits of his labors. He loved his summers in Michigan City with his brother Bruce and cousins Bruce and Lorene. And I love to hear the story that the bottoms of his and Bruce Finn's feet would get suntanned from doing handstands in the lake. He would tell you that he wasn't very academic, but that statement belied a keen intellect. He nonetheless graduated law school and practiced law at Rudnick and Wolf. If classes weren't his favorite, some sports and many extracurriculars were a focus. Student government was a natural for him. His sharp wit, street savvy, good looks, and political sense brought him not only to the student council president at Von Steuben, but he was also the City of Chicago Student Council president and the president of the Student Senate at Bradley University. Leadership remained a theme in his life, running a company for 35 years, the president of Solomon Schechter, and leadership roles at countless other Jewish and civic institutions, even taking on the thankless job of presiding over the condo board at my folks' place in Boca West. My dad was a builder by profession, which was apt, as his second life was to be a builder in the spiritual sense as well, seeing it as his personal calling to help restore a broken world, and that drive informed his actions at so many levels. He was a philanthropist and organized all manner of study groups throughout his life. My sisters will talk more about studying with him, but he loved Jewish text and studied in depth throughout his life. Dad also knew how to have a good time. I mean, a really good time. Cooking Chinese for festive Shabbos dinners, time on the slopes in Colorado, and especially outings to Las Vegas. On our last trip there, just over a year ago, it was just him and me. I didn't gamble much, but watched him for hours at the blackjack tables. He's always been a gracious tipper, and was frequently adding a bet for the dealer on many, many hands. As is my nature, I found myself keeping tabs on both the hands and the tips. I noted to him that while he was down a few dollars, he'd put out over $1,000 in tip bets. His reply stays with me today. First, Brian, they need it more than I do. And throughout my life, I found that whatever I give away, I get back in multiples from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This was my dad. This was an expression of the remarkable spiritual side of my father. He truly saw the blessings in his life and lived with tremendous gratitude for those blessings, happily expressing his joy at the charmed life he lived, even to his final days, where he truly went out on his own terms. And nowhere was that charmed life greater than at home. He met my mom at age 15 in USY and began a love affair that endures to this day. The best time of the year was alone on a boat together, cruising the Great Lakes. They were working in harmony and tandem with the occasional daiquiri thrown in for good measure. Just enjoying the time together on the water for weeks and weeks on end. Theirs was a magical and blessed marriage of over 60 years. The last year or two have been more difficult for him, but he was animated by his love for Mom and her infectious joy at their time together and with the family. Their journey has been one of discovery, respect, and deep joy. Mom, you've done an incredible job these past several years, keeping him going even when he was cranky, and Dad could be cranky, and we are all blessed for it. I admit I'm a little surprised he didn't rally to cruise the Great Lakes one more time this summer with you, but here we are. They built a Jewish home that extended from Deerfield and Highland Park to the waters of Lake Winnebago and Lake Michigan, the slopes of Snowmass, and the manicured grounds of Boca West. They built a home full of warmth and love, with Dad animating me and my sister's childhoods with his ridiculous humor, Mortimer stories, and larger-than-life presence. Marriage encounter and analysis marked another change in my dad's life from his earlier days, where his temper would occasionally show itself, growing into the very sweet father and grandfather we've loved all these many, many years. To be a child in my father's home was to feel protected at the most basic level. It's probably heresy, apologies, Rabbi, but I confess that when we'd pray the 23rd Psalm, I'd always revise the passage to say, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, because my dad is the baddest man in the valley." It was that kind of strong, nurturing home. My dad was an abundant giver, ever gracious with all of us. I revel in the relationships he built with Melanie and each of our children. So much joy and generosity abounding. He taught me a trade, and I know the years working with Todd and I were among the best of his life, a true family business. And we basked in the glow of his pride at our achievements. I mentioned the spiritual side earlier today, and that is the great lesson of his life. He never stopped learning. For the 2 lives, he grew from a misnagdik, as a young man studying Bible and Talmud, to his later years when he began a more serious study of Chassidut and Kabbalah. He became a real Bratslaver, perhaps without the black hat, but deeply moved by the philosophy of Rav Nachman of Bratslav that we should be grateful, even in our times of greatest pain. I'm grateful for the gift of my dad's life and for the overabundant blessings he's bestowed upon me, even on a hard day like today. One final story that I'll leave you with. Dad used to always joke with me that whatever happened, I was to make sure he was well provided for in his old age with Diet Coke and Cuban cigars. This past Saturday night, after drinking nothing but water and apple juice for a couple of days, he asked me for some Diet Coke. Surprised, I opened the bottle and he drank from the straw till he was contented. I think that was one last gift, his way of saying I did okay on that old pledge. Dad, I love you and I'll miss you always. Baruch Dayan Emet.
Thank you all for being here today to honor and remember and celebrate our father, David Hoffman's life. Our dad was loving, caring, generous, tuned in, and wise. He had the best sense of humor ever, even when he contended with difficult health challenges and losses. He had a way of bringing levity and joy into difficulty through his humor and jokes. He truly embodied what it means to be a patriarch. He was the beloved patriarch of our family, but also in the world. He was committed to loving and caring for and providing for others, whether it was his family, who he loved so much, his extended family, who he loved so graciously, and his community, his dear friends, his employees at his company, Red Seal, the many he mentored in business, or sometimes even the waitstaff at restaurants and clerks in the store, even strangers who quickly became friends who we met along the way. He touched and blessed so many people throughout his life. Our dad had a magnetism about him. He loved people, and boy, did people love him. He could instantly connect with others through his big, loving heart, his charm, his amazing sense of humor. He knew how to read people and see through a facade. And he recognized quickly when someone, whether it was his family, a close friend, a community member, or someone he just met in public, had a need. And he did his best to meet it well. Maybe someone needed to be raised up with a compliment, or perhaps someone needed a job, a hug, or a few, or sometimes a lot, more shekels. His generosity was boundless.
Dad, while you were passionate about your work at Red Seal and thrived as a leader in the Jewish and greater community in Chicago, your biggest love and what was most central in your life was us, our family. You were a devoted and loving husband to our mom, Barbara. She was the love of your life for the last 67 years. You adored and honored her. You wrote her the most beautiful Eishes Chayil. You recited to her every Shabbos, and even last Shabbos, when you could hardly speak, you remembered each and every word eloquently expressing your love and admiration to your beloved Barbara, your bestest friend. Dad, you and Mom exemplified a match made in heaven and taught me how to be a caring, loving wife and share a partnership in marriage. Always treat Todd with kavod. Laugh and cry with him. Don't be afraid to share every feeling. Shalom Bayit trumps all. Always give 100% and you will meet somewhere in the middle. And never let the sun set angry. And Dad, you were the most loving and caring, devoted father to Brian, Devorah, and me, and later to Todd and Melanie. You loved us so much and always wanted the very best for us. You were so supported in our choices and paths in life. You didn't shy away from telling us, sometimes very bluntly, where you stood. Regardless, you supported us in the end. When Todd entered my life, you jumped in and treated him as your own, fulfilling the role of father that he so yearned for. What a beautiful, beautiful role model for us. You taught me how to parent my children, share my opinion, but let them always make their own decisions. Allow them to make mistakes, as they will always learn and grow from them.
Our dad had a gift of being tuned in spiritually to others and things going on around him. There were moments, particularly in the last 5 years or so, when I might have been managing a challenging situation, and without my even sharing with him, he would call me and he would ask, "Is everything all right? I'm thinking about you, Devorah." As a child, one of our sweetest memories of our dad was his mesmerizing bedtime stories with Mortimer the fly. He wasn't just any fly, he was magical. And my dad had a way of bringing him and our adventures to life. Every time we jumped up on his wings, our dad created a new adventure, a new world for us to explore together. He would ask, "Where should we go tonight?" My favorite was Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. Really? Could we really sail away on a chocolate river? Lisa's favorite was going to Upside Down Land, which had its moments for sure. He opened us up into a window of his imagination and creativity that helped spark our own inner world. He made bedtime fun and sweet. And of course, we always finished with a Shema Rad Hayom, a nighttime lullaby, in his sweet, loving voice. And good night, sleep tight. God bless you.
Dad, I grew up wanting to be just like the best parts of you. I tossed a baseball or football with you for hours and hours as you shared your insights and wisdoms of how to succeed in this world, both professionally but more importantly with grace as a good person. One of my favorite memories was our weekly Shabbos morning trips to Steele's Grill before we went to Shul. As early risers, I got you all to myself. It was these mornings that you doted me with endless love and guided me on a path to become a lawyer, just like you. I was blessed to inherit your strength, perseverance, stubbornness, and resilience. You were my sports coach, never missing a diving meet or tennis match. You were my mentor, both spiritually and professionally, but most important, you were one of my best friends. I will miss hearing your voice on our daily phone conversations where you check in on me, guide me, inspire me, and share your infinite love with me. Your love and pride for your grandchildren has no bounds. You had huge shoes to fill for my girls, as God took their grandpa Steuben away too soon. My girls and now Theo too were blessed with the best grandpa who made each of them feel like the most important person in the world. You played with them, created with them, imagined with them, dreamed with them. You taught them to love themselves and have faith in whatever paths they chose.
Our dad had such a deep love and passion for Judaism and Torah. Sending Lisa, Brian, and I to Salman Schechter meant so much for him and my mom. And furthermore, they made it a priority to make sure that all their grandchildren had a Jewish education. The Jewish lifestyle, Shabbos, Chagim, Shul, Jewish learning, in many ways became the foundation of his life and our lives growing up. When he led Seder, he had a way of bringing everybody in and keeping everyone engaged. He adored being able to give us all our Shabbos blessings. It didn't matter if we were in different states or even countries. Regardless of how busy we got or he got, he always made time to call and make sure to give us our Shabbos blessing. It was one of the most gratifying experiences he had as a father, and boy, it was the sweetest experience to receive his bracha week after week after week after week, until the very end, even last Shabbos.
Your love for Yiddishkeit included a deep thirst for Torah and Jewish text. You learned with so many rabbis, conservative and Hasidic. When you had your massive heart attack at the end of 2019, you were setting your intentions for your recovery and said to Avram, "Let's up our study together to 2 to 3 times a week," and you did it.
As an adult, particularly the last 10 or 15 years plus, my dad and I grew closer, sharing so openly with each other on a deeper level. Our bond as father and daughter blossomed into the most beautiful, real friendship. I cherish our long conversations on the phone, our meals, our Starbucks, coffee at Starbucks, or our walks. Perhaps some of my sweetest memories, though, with our dad has been these last several years sharing our weekly chavruta, Jewish learning together. When I was in high school, our dad gifted to me my first book of Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, whose teaching has become so central and foundational in my life. In our chavruta, we learned Rabbi Nachman's teaching, sometimes exploring his esoteric texts, or other times his stories, or like my dad used to say, the maisas. Our sharing was so deeply personal about how the teachings touched our lives.
I had the great privilege to study with you, Dad, and Avram, the big sis I always yearned for, Rachel, and brilliant Rabbi Schultz. We gathered every Monday and Wednesday to study Musar and Rabbi Joe's stepping stones. Our sessions were often intimate and raw as we shared our vulnerabilities and the struggles we all faced on our spiritual journeys. I was astounded by your wisdom and depth of knowledge. We delved into what comes next after life, learning about Olam Haba, and finally helping you become comfortable with dying, which led to one of the hardest days of my life, getting a call from Mom letting me know that you were ready for your soul's journey out of this dimension. It is not surprising, Dad, our generous, generous Dad, that you continue to give us and teach us until your last breath. We gathered around your bedside, singing, sharing, laughing, crying with our beloved Mom, your soulmate, by your side, as we sent you to Olam Haba. Dad, your memory is a blessing to us every day for the rest of our lives. There are no words to express our abounding love and gratitude for you. We miss you and love you so much. Baruch Dayan Ha'emet.
Amen.
David left his indelible mark not only on his family, of course, but on a very wide circle of friends, many of whom were very close. We're now going to hear words from a few of them. One of these very close family friends is Krana Kraft, and her son Adam will read her words on her behalf.
Our mother, with a heavy heart, asked me last night to share her eulogy with all of you, so thanks for bearing with me as I was trying to get this all down. Hello, everyone. My name is Krana Kraft. Thanks for all of you for being here today to celebrate the life of a truly remarkable man, your beloved David Hoffman. I still remember the very first time David and Barbara entered our family's life on a warm evening in Bernie and Fran Alpert's backyard. There was an instant connection, an unspoken warmth between our families that blossomed into a friendship we would all come to cherish deeply. David and Barbara truly embraced us, my late husband Avram, and our kids Adam and Rachel, not just as friends, but as family. They opened their hearts and their homes to us, inviting us to all the Jewish holidays and celebrations. It was so meaningful for us. A year after we moved to Northbrook, Av lost his dear father Harry, who Av used to study with. Even our kids at 8 and 10 years old realized it was extraordinary that his new friends, David and Bernie, would fly all the way to Boston to be with him and told Av, "We will study with you now." When they got back to Highland Park after Shiva, a close group of friends decided to create a bi-weekly study group in Harry's memory, and they met for decades. David was very instrumental in its creation. Looking back, there are so many memories that capture David's essence. Sailing on the waters of Door County with Captain David at the helm, his joy so evident that he taught us all the ropes, or at least he tried to. Enjoying springtime in Colorado, David's spirit was one of adventure and boundless enthusiasm. And then there were many, many days basking in the sunny days of Florida together. David and Barbara said, "Of course we'll join you in Boca West community and find a second home there. We'll spend winters together and grow old together." This was yet another place where he found joy, whether on the golf course, over Shabbat dinners, or just becoming that person that people knew that they could depend on and have a lot of fun with. Our bond grew so close over the years that I considered Barbara a sister and David a brother. David and I could be very honest with each other, and I mean very honest. And somehow those conversations only brought us closer together. That was David, someone who valued authenticity and connection more than just being right. He was not only a dear friend, he was a guide, and he was a mentor. I'll never forget when we were timidly thinking of moving from our house in Northbrook, Illinois. David didn't hesitate his wisdom or generosity. "Why don't you build a new house? And I can help." And boy, did he mean it. His company, Red Seal Development, literally built us a brand new home in Highland Park and turned our dream into a reality. One of the most profound parts of David's life was his devotion to faith, to learning, and to acts of loving kindness. The bond he shared with his dear friend Avram and their treasured teacher, Rabbi Joseph Schultz in Massachusetts, was something truly special. Studying biblical literature, philosophy, and what it means to be a good person wasn't just a routine, it was a spiritual connection that shaped their lives and left a lasting imprint on all who were with them or weren't even in class together. David, I feel honored to call you my friend and my brother. I love you so much, and you will truly be missed and never forgotten.
I now invite to the bima another close family friend, Al Goldram.
My friendship with Dave spanned over 64 years and 1,000 miles. I first met Dave in our dormitory, and my first impression was, I don't think we're gonna hit this off. We were so different. I was a skinny marink introvert from New York, and Dave was a husky extrovert. So I wonder, where are we going with this? As it turned out, we did have one really important thing in common, and it was a desire to bring a chapter of a Jewish fraternity to Bradley. Kind of a preposterous dream. I wasn't even 18 yet, and the thought of starting a fraternity didn't seem possible. At any rate, we did have something that actually encouraged us. There were 5 brothers. We hardly knew them, and they hardly knew us. But somehow or other, we shared that same desire. Partially, I believe it was because we did not in any way want to join the only existing fraternity on campus. I won't tell you which one it is. And partially because we really felt that we could make our mark on our own. So we started TEP, Todd High. It was quite an achievement that when I think back, unique and challenging, but we did succeed. Part of the success was that Dave became our chancellor. Who else? One of the 7. And he did spend a lot of time guiding us. Where he got this experience from is beyond me. But somehow or other, he intuitively knew what we had to do and how to do it. Quickly, we established a house on campus. I guess it was a house. It was sort of like a half shack and half something else. But for us, this was a presence that we needed, and we spent that first summer fixing it up. Dave did the carpentry work. I did the painting, and the other guys just hung around. During that time, we were able to join the Interfraternity Council. That was a biggie. So this was a sign that we were here, or we were there. And we became really active in Greek life. I was the water boy. One night, Dave said, I'm going to go home to visit my high school sweetheart, Barb. He would always speak about Barb, and I would always try to imagine her, and he was enthralled with her at a really early age. So I had no place else to go at the time, so I went with him. And I remember like it was yesterday, his family welcomed me with such open arms. I was overjoyed. I was so thrilled that this became my second home in so many ways. Within a few years, Dave attended law school, married the love of his life, and joined Red Seal Homes, where he enjoyed a long and successful career. We always enjoyed discussing the trials and tribulations of our respective businesses. I recall Dave telling me about the Hibernia project. It just so happens that Bob and Dave were in New York at our place during that period of time. And he whipped out a whole plan. And I didn't know what a Hibernia was, but I soon learned. And what really impressed me was his tenacity. There were some problems with the districting and the allocation of not the replacement, but the replacing of these Hibernias, which were considered endangered. I really didn't know in those days that a little plant and flower could be endangered. I was looking for an animal, a bird, something tangible. No, it was Hibernias. And he solicited the expertise of a rather renowned botanist, wow, to plead his case. And lo and behold, they came to an agreement about dedicating, I don't remember if it was 7 acres or 17 acres or 70 acres, it was 7 something. I think it was 17 acres of land and replanting all of these Hibernias. And they saved the Hibernia and they saved the project. I haven't seen Hibernia, I only saw the plans, but I understand till today it's really a beautiful place to be. He also would look to share with me not only the good things, but some of the really challenging. And I remember he discussed with me Fort Sheridan's project. Who the devil buys something from the government and then tries to develop it? I said, you're Michiganer, you can't do this. He says, well, you're right. I don't know if I should do this. And anyhow, he went through a difficult period of time. I won't go into the details because I truly don't know them or remember them. But in the end, he succeeded. And that's the moral of that story. During those years, my wife, Emily, and Barbara became very beautiful friends. They shared memories. They raised beautiful families, children and grandchildren. And we were so fortunate that the miles of that separated us did not deter us from always sharing each other's simchas, beautiful bar and bat mitzvahs, weddings, and other wonderful simchas. I was very lucky to have Dave as my dear friend. I'll miss you, Dave. Rest in peace.
The family has a close relationship with Chazan Ben Tisser, formerly of Bethel, and I invite him to the Bima to sing a special song at the request of the family, Debbie Friedman's Lechi Lach.
Lechi lach, to a land that I will show you. Lech lecha, to a place you do not know. Lechi lach, on your journey we will bless you. And you shall be a blessing, and you shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing, lechilach, lechilach, and I shall make your name great. Lech lecha, and all shall praise your name. Lechilach, to the place that I will show you. Lesimchat chayim, lesimchat chayim. You shall be a blessing. Lech lecha.
David had an immense heart with seemingly limitless bounds, but a very special part, perhaps the widest part, was for his grandchildren. And I invite them forward to share their memories and love and recollections. Talia, Josh, Sammy, Sarah, Henry, Emma.
Thank you all for being here. Dear Grandpa, thank you for the gift of being your granddaughter for the past 3 decades. Thank you for inspiring a sense of wonder and curiosity about the world, and for lovingly teaching me how to be a mensch. One memory I hold dear is sleeping over at your house on Hazel and listening to you share your Mortimer stories. You'd instruct me to close my eyes and imagine I'm riding on the wings of your dear friend, Mortimer the Fly. Where in the world would you like to go tonight? Mortimer would ask. And just like Grandpa, he always said yes, even to the most absurd requests. Hold on tight, he'd say, as I was transported on the wings of this tiny fly to any place at any moment in time. On the wings of Mortimer, my dreams came true. I saw the parting of the Red Sea, met Moshe himself, and even prayed in the first temple before its destruction. I visited mermaids in the sea, red-eyed tree frogs in the jungle, and saw Earth from space, all while riding on Mortimer's back. Grandpa, I admire the way you crafted stories and wove meaning and beauty into what may otherwise be a dull or insignificant moment. You taught me that the art of storytelling lies at the intersection of reality and imagination. It is a key to human connection and the thread that ties us to our ancestors. Around the time of my bat mitzvah, as I was diving deeper into my Jewish studies, you invited me to join your study group one Shabbos afternoon. I was honored and nervous, wanting to impress my learned grandpa and his wise friends. Thoughts swirled around my head, and I searched for the perfect question to ask and the right moment to interject. That moment never came, and seldom does when curious friends gather to learn, but you stopped the conversation to ask my opinion. Whenever I spoke, you listened intently and made me feel like the most important person in the world. When you listened, you really listened, trying your best to see my perspective with an open heart. Thank you for knowing when and how to listen, and knowing when to speak and what to say. I share your love of asking the bigger, deeper, and more challenging questions, and I cherish our abundant, thought-provoking conversations. When I was a kid, I was convinced you knew the answer to every question. And as we both got older, you taught me a humbling truth. It is not always about the answer. Power and understanding lie in the asking of a question. And my dear Grandpa, thank you for introducing me to the magic of the mountains and for instilling within me a sense of awe and reverence for the natural world. You taught me to tread lightly, listen carefully, and give utmost respect to the mountains, creeks, lakes, and little critters who live within. Thank you for sharing your passion of sailing with me from a young age. I've come to share your pining for adventure, and I've spent the last decade of my life seeking out pristine pockets of the natural world to call home. I would not be where I am today, living in a canyon next to a mighty river, or who I am today without your guidance and wisdom. Grandpa, thank you for igniting a spark of curiosity and wonder within me. You fueled my interest in Jewish tradition, the ideas of those that came before us, in the inner world of our minds, not shying away from daunting questions. And thank you for sharing your favorite places with me, Lake Michigan's still waters and babbling creeks that flow from snow-capped mountains. Thank you for nurturing the embers of wonder in my soul and stoking the flames of passion that drive my obsessive pursuit of knowledge and adventure. Thank you for reminding me not to take myself or anything in life too seriously. Thank you for always believing in me and trusting in my decisions. And thank you for warmly, genuinely, and generously welcoming Theo into our family. Thanks for blessing us before your passing, and we look forward to you joining us in spirit at our wedding, though your physical presence will surely be missed. Grandpa, thank you for the gift of 3 decades with you. Thank you for being a pillar of love, playfulness, light, and guidance throughout my life. Thank you for your unparalleled acceptance of me and support of my decisions, and for your wisdom and kindness. It was an honor to be by your side in your final days, and may your soul ride on the wings of Mortimer the Fly as you enter Olam Haba. Thank you for all you've taught me, and I promise to pass along your stories, wisdom, and curiosity. I love you dearly. May your memory be a blessing. Baruch Dayan Haemet.
May my grandpa's David Ben Eti's neshama have the highest of aliyahs. I have so many special and unique memories, but what stands out most of all is our time spent studying together. This past Shabbos, coincidentally, I was studying a Maimer Chassidus by the Tzemach Tzedek, and there it says, "Uchmushakasu v'lo yikanef od morecha v'gomer." Your master will no longer veil himself, as it says in Yeshayahu, which the Tzemach Tzedek goes on to explain, means that it is known the fundamental activity in Gan Eden is Torah study. It is no surprise to me that this is exactly what my grandfather is up to right now. When I was in 6th grade and starting to learn Mishnah, my grandfather invited me to study with him. I was doing a Masechet on Rosh Hashanah in class, and we picked up with exactly what I was learning. As we're studying, he would be reminded of an idea, and he would proceed to start pulling books off the shelf of his library. And for those who were lucky enough to see it, his library was legendary. He had everything in it. Now, we would jump from this source, then that source, and read this commentary, and then that opinion, and in truth, I really could not keep up, and I was lost in the end, but it was truly inspiring to see him fearlessly dive into each and every one of these texts. My grandpa has been my longest running chavrusa, and on my last visit to Florida, we got to learn Tanya together and sat with Rabbi Jo, who gave over beautiful Hasidic concepts. Grandpa was always teaching us to learn. Even growing up, our Saturday mornings were filled with brunches, followed by a visit to a bookstore. He encouraged us to get whatever we wanted. There, he generously planted the seeds to our now burgeoning libraries of our own that each of my brothers have today. And he was selfless in his pursuit of learning and connection to God. He enabled all my cousins and I to have a Jewish education, and his time as board president of Schechter enabled countless others to also learn. His favorite was always Reb Nachman and Baal Shem Tov stories. I know now that he's studying with his best buddy Avram, but also with the Baal Shem Tov, the Bretzlaver Rebbe, Moshe Rabbeinu, and Avram Avinu, not only learning, but I'm sure with all the zest he has, he's arguing with them, pulling countless sources off the walls, and asking why they wrote a certain maaseh the way that they did, because this is simply who my grandpa is. Grandpa, I love you. May your neshama have the highest of aliyahs.
My favorite saying from Grandpa used to be, if I could choose to be lucky or good, I would choose to be lucky every time. And I don't blame him. Being good at something takes consistent effort over time, while being lucky allows us to achieve the same without all the effort. Who wouldn't want to be lucky? In the last couple of years, though, we stopped saying lucky and started saying blessed instead. And I think this is for a good reason. Grandpa worked harder to be lucky or blessed than most do to be good. But he always went about it with humility. My favorite example of this was at Seder a few years ago. Grandpa was at the head, leading the Seder in his kittel as always. We, the grandchildren, were gathered around the table, questioning the 4 questions and debating if the wicked son, the Rasha, might actually be the most important one at the Seder table. In this moment, Grandpa said he was blessed that his grandchildren could now lead the discussion at Seder. And I think some context is important here. My grandparents sent me to Solomon Schechter Day School to receive a Jewish education rich with Yiddishkeit. One of the greatest blessings in my life. Then every year at Seder, Grandpa encouraged me to find something new in the Haggadah, ask questions, and push my boundaries. Another incredible blessing. After Grandpa equipped me with a powerful Jewish education and turned my fear of the unknown into a yearning for it, once I was blessed with curiosity and a desire to learn, he turned around and said how blessed he was. Beyond encouraging curiosity and conversation, I was given the special opportunity to set up, clean up, and sometimes even cook for Seder, Rosh Hashanah, Sukkot, and of course Shabbat. Admittedly, I did not enjoy the setting up or cleaning up of the table. But in that time, I was blessed to learn the very basics of the effort that goes into hosting such large groups. And even more important, I got to learn just how important it is to gather family and friends around the Shabbat, the Yom Tov table. This was truly a blessing. The first Shabbat dinner I got to host was for my graduation in Houston a little over a year ago, which Grandpa refused to miss. As a result, I got to have both of my parents, both of my brothers, and all 4 of my grandparents at my Shabbat table. What a blessing. But of course, Grandpa said he was the one who was blessed. I could go on for hours with examples of how he blessed the people around him and always did so with humility. But I think my family has done a good job of that already. My grandfather got to choose between being good and being blessed. I never had to choose because Grandpa chose option 3, to bless those around him and call it a blessing. Grandpa was my grandpa. I am blessed. Baruch Dayan Ha'amet.
Volumes of moral Jewish philosophy, encyclopedias of Chinese cookbooks, stacks of Peter, Paul, and Mary CDs, the complete Sherlock Holmes collection, a guide to fishing in the Great Lakes, and a half-eaten Milky Way bar were among the highlights as I looked through my grandpa's bookshelves earlier this week. While many of you who know my grandpa well may not be surprised by this diverse and somewhat absurd collection, when taken at face value, it's hard to believe that this library could belong to one individual person. My grandpa was a man of many talents, interests, and passions, and he did everything he could to pass this down to us. My grandpa was always fiercely interested and supportive of just about any hobby that I have ever told him about. He cultivated our interests by pushing us to explore the things that excited us. He celebrated exploration and discovery and helped each of us to grow towards being a curious-minded and passionate learner, just like himself. He wanted to know where we were at any given moment, where we wanted to go, and where we wanted to go next, and he was always there to brainstorm how we were going to get there. His advice was often simple. If you want to go somewhere, then go. If you want to do something, then do it. And when you would reply with a long-winded explanation of logistical complications, trade-offs to consider, and reasons why it just could never happen, he would smile, shrug, and say, "So, you'll figure out the details later." Then he would follow with a story of how he, against all odds, managed to pull the unthinkable off, like the time he was elected class president, despite having the worst grades in the class and the principal telling him he was not eligible to run. The stories were never meant to brag and almost always concluded with, "So if Grandpa could do that, just imagine how much you could do." My grandpa liked to pretend he was an exceedingly average guy. He was incredibly learned, successful, determined, kind, generous, and caring. Yet my grandpa maintained an almost uncanny humility, attributing any of his good fortune to God's grace and good timing. However, when it came to any of his grandchildren's success, there was no such thing as luck or good timing. My grandpa celebrated each and every one of our successes, our swim meets, basketball games, good grades, and lost teeth, as if they were each worthy of a Nobel Prize. My grandpa taught us that there is immense value in each and everything that we do, and that our actions carry a very powerful gravity. Most importantly, my grandpa taught us all how to be very proud of ourselves. To put it bluntly, my grandpa was the best and most loving grandpa that I could have ever asked for. And while I will miss breakfast at Walker Brothers with hot chocolate and whipped cream up to the ceiling, vibrant Shabbat dinners with his signature Chinese food, games of hot run, and late nights chatting over a glass of red wine, I feel abundantly grateful to have spent 25 years with him, and I know that his wisdom, determination, and a little bit of his stubbornness too, live within each of us. Baruch Dayan Ha'emet.
Oh, Captain, my Captain. The first time I heard this phrase, the first image that popped into my head was my grandpa. He was my captain. And I was his main man. He made sure to remind me every single time I saw him, "My main man," he would exclaim with a smile brimming across his face. I would always make sure to respond in kind, "Oh, Captain, my Captain." He was always down for an adventure with me, whatever I felt up to, whether it was waking up early in the morning, and I mean early in the morning. If I said 5, he was up at 4, to go fishing, or going golfing, or whatever it was, playing cards, anything else. He was always excited to spend time with me. He really was. But beyond all that, he taught me so many different things. Some relating to education and Judaism, but also just some general life skills. He taught me some things that maybe he shouldn't have taught me at the time that he did. To me, he was a little rebellious, but he was my captain. He let me sit in the front seat of the car, even when, I was way too young. Because, in his words, I've always got to have my main man next to me. He gave me my first fishing knife, took me to buy my first fishing rod. He even taught me how to light a lighter. He even gave me my first drink, way too young. New Orleans, great time. But he always loved me and cared. I would like to finish with a story. When I was in 4th grade, he and I were in Florida, and we decided to go fishing. On the drive over, he reaches into his glove box, pulls out a cigar tube, and he asks me if I know how to use a lighter. Sheepishly, I look at him. No. He looks at me, smile on his face, happy as a clam, says, "Don't worry, we're gonna change that really quick." While at a stoplight, he explains to me how to do it. And as we continue to drive, I just keep practicing. By the time we get to the next stoplight, "Grandpa, I got it. I did it. Congratulations. You now know how to use a lighter. It's a very useful skill. Now light me up." I reached over and I lit up the lighter with a smile on my face. And as he puffed that cigar and enjoyed life, he looked at me and he said, "Don't tell your mother or Grammy. They will have my head." I nodded at him, yes, and I've held on to that memory every day for years. Well, Captain, I kept my word. Thank you for everything. Enjoy this next voyage. I will always be your main man, and you will always be my captain. For one last time, oh, Captain, my captain, I love you, Grandpa. Baruch Tayan Hamet.
To the bravest, kindest, wisest, most profound man I have ever known, thank you. Thank you for instilling your tiny bits of wisdom in me all of these years. For waking up with me at 6 a.m. to make Eggo waffles with ice cream before the sun or Grammy were even awake. For sparking a surreal sense of imagination and spirituality in me from the time I was a toddler. You taught me the importance of a lifetime of wondering, of asking, of learning, of growing. Our conversations were filled with questions stacked on questions, never settling for an easy answer, but always pushing deeper. You are constantly seeking knowledge and somehow manage to sprinkle a little bit of wisdom even in the most ordinary of moments. It's something I'll carry with me forever. You taught me that education, and Jewish learning especially, is one of life's greatest gifts. And because of you, I've always cherished it so deeply. But more than anything, you taught me that family comes first, always. You never missed a moment in my life, from my swim meets to my Siddur ceremony to my wildly uncoordinated circus camp performances. You were right there cheering me on. You and Grammy were always right there in the front row, screaming, "Go Emma," by my parents' side. That devotion, that kind of love, is the same love I will one day give to my kids and grandkids because of you. Even though I was the youngest of the 7 grandchildren in a hectic family, somehow you always made me feel like I was the only one. You gave me your undivided attention and your full heart. You are endlessly patient, endlessly kind. You let me play dress up in your closet and walk away with half your sweater collection just because it made me smile. You never lost your temper, even when it took me 7 tries to put the ball on hole 9. You trusted me, like when you let me drive in Florida alone at 15 right after I got my permit. You taught me how to fish, how to golf, how to think deeply, and never stop asking questions, even when the answers weren't clear. You taught me how to have thick skin with the world, but a soft heart for the people that I love. Even in your last days, you reminded me to stop burning the candle at both ends. And when I asked if you had any regrets, you simply shook your head. No regrets. You told me every moment, even the hard ones, were opportunities to learn and to grow. And then you shared the secret to life, to find your purpose in life, and in that is to find your true joy. Your eyes sparkled when you said it, so full of pride, so full of peace. It was an honor to make you smile and think in this lifetime, Grandpa. Until we meet again, Mortimer the Fly will take me where I need to go. Baruch Dayan Ha'emet.
I now invite Talia to read words shared by a very close family friend, Rabbi Levi Lauer, to be followed by Josh, reciting the words of the 15th Psalm.
I'm going to read you words from our dear friend, Rabbi Levi Lauer. There is a place in my heart that is empty today, longing for more than the 52 years of caring, generosity, and love that David brought and will forever bring to my and my family's lives. I know little of the homes that David built to house the dreams and devotions of innumerable families. The building I knew was of a trust, directness, humility. Remember those infinite times he was really annoyed or troubled by what we were doing, but so graciously deferred judgment? But what do I know, when he often did know far better than we? And his devotion to our precious legacy made me a better person than I was or would have been. He made me feel at home and at ease in ways I rarely achieve. To this day, those so very long night discussions on that living room couch on Hazel are reminders of what I might be doing better. He never nodded off or fell asleep, just rested his eyes. There was always time for me, for Chaya, and for Anya. His support for my work, for helping educate generations of Jews, was more from the heart than from the pocket, and thus resonated all the deeper. Even his foibles were celebratory. No one ever snuck a cigar, nor drank frighteningly strong Starbucks with greater nachas. As with your best friends, he could tell me the things I didn't want but needed to hear, and forgave my lapses of good sense and common decency in a way that was not shaming, but a reminder of who I aspired to be. I knew that David would be there for me, for us, at a moment's notice, no favor too large, no inconvenience too considerable. I'll forever remember that larger soul, unshrunk by disease or age, a soul enhanced by his love for Barbara, from which Chaya and I drew inspiration and strength. His memory is now and will be for a blessing for all of us, for Am Yisrael, and for all who make kindness and dignity their lives' work.
Rabbi Lauer also asked that Psalm 15 be read. Mizmor David, Adonai mi yagur be'olecha mi yishkon b'har kodshecha, holech tamen ufoel tzedek v'dover emes bilvavo, lo ragal al lashona lo asa l'rehu ra v'cherpa lo nasa al krovo. Nivze be'einav nimas ve'es yir'e Adonai yichabed nishba lehara v'lo yamir. Kaspo lo nasan beneshach v'shochad al nakid lo lakach ose ele lo yimot leolam.
As we heard time and again, Barbara was David's beshared from his younger years to the end of his life, and she wrote a eulogy to be shared now upon this important moment and she's asking her sister-in-law, Kitty, to read her words on her behalf.
No pressure. My sweetheart, dearest love, Ish Chayil David. God gave us the sweetest blessing of our Beshert meeting at 15 years old at Camp USY. I had a crush on 3 guys, and it was Sam Zell, Oliva Sholem, who told me that David had a crush on me and fixed us up. Little did I know that you would become my best friend and beloved husband for 60 years. I remember our first kiss when you said, "Do you always kiss with your eyes open?" Marvelous years of boating where you were always my wonderful, sweet captain, except at moments when you became Captain Bligh. And our magnificent snowmass home that you lovingly created for our family. And in these last years of life, our wonderful home and community in Boca West, God brought us the most loving, kind, and caring children and grandchildren who are our magnificent legacy. Lisa brought the most magnificent Todd, and Brian, most precious and loving Melanie, that have brought us so much joy. I thank you for the Eishes Chayil that you wrote and have recited to me every Erev Shabbat since our Jewish marriage encounter weekend. Friday night, we all gathered in our bedroom for Shabbat blessings. It was the most serene, beautiful moment as you blessed our children. I can attest to that. I have a video of that last Eishes Chayil that is forever embedded in my heart, and I will listen to it every Shabbat. Sweetheart, this last year has been difficult as you deteriorated with your pain, weakness, and no appetite, but you fought and succeeded in giving me another year beside me, filled with our 60th anniversary celebration as we gathered at the Sonora Resort and enjoyed a spectacular love-in. We've cherished so many Shabbat dinners with the kids and grandchildren, visits with family and friends when you could barely walk, as you pushed yourself to come home for Pesach to enjoy, give wisdom, and kvel over Mishpacha and the grandchildren's chosen Beshert. It was only Thursday when I helped you out of bed when you shocked me with saying that you were ready for Vidui. I sobbed, but felt so respectful of your courage. These long days have been a tribute to your strength. We've been enveloped by the love of our children, Brian, Melanie, Devorah, Lisa, and Todd, our grandchildren, Talia, Josh, Kayla, Sammy, Sarah, Henry, and Emma, Theo, Kitty, and Bruce, family, and friends that have also been by your side, giving love. We were blessed by 7 Rabbanim that gave you solace and peace. Rabbi Joe Schultz told you that your best buddy Avram was chosen to guide you to Olam Haba, where you'll have a Havruta with a rabbi and judge, and you will have the joy of being reunited with your parents. Michael, that's my son. Perry and Elaine, Bernie, Sheila, aunts, uncles, cousins, and so many blessed friends. May you dance in the heavens together until the Moshiach comes and we can all be reunited. I want to thank our dearest Krena and precious Dawn for coming to be with us. And I thank all of you for being with me and sustaining me through this painful time. I thank other family friends, especially dearest Essie and David, and to Alan and Debbie Schulman's family, and all our nieces and nephews for enveloping us with so much love. And David, my love, it is embedded in my heart forever when you whispered to me to put on your wedding ring as you deteriorated into a coma. It was a privilege to be with and hug you as you took your last breath, and then Av took you to God and Olam Haba. I'll miss you eternally with a hole in my heart, and I look forward to being in your arms again when it's God's will for me. All my love, I know you're at peace. You will always be my rainbow sunshine.
David Hoffman spent his career building homes on dry land, but his heart was most drawn to the sea. He and Barbara, whom he loved with absolutely everything he had a passion for sailing together, as we heard, sometimes for months. This was their happy place, aboard their boat called Happy. This reminds me of a midrash shared by the ancient rabbis. Rabbi Levi taught, think of two ships that set sail on the great sea, one leaving the port, while the other enters the port the same day. Everyone gathers to rejoice over the one that is departing. There's a celebration, there's festivities, but no one is there to welcome the ship that is entering the harbor. The clever person there says, I see it in the opposite way. There's no reason for everyone to rejoice over the one that's departing from the port. They don't know what conditions it will withstand, what seas it will encounter, what challenges and winds it will face. But everyone should rejoice over the ship that enters the port again, for they know the ship has returned safely from the sea. And so too, when a person is born, one considers for him the time of his death. And when one dies, one considers for him the time he lived. The rabbi's message is that even though this is a sad time for us here, for David is gone, it's a moment to celebrate his accomplishments, which were so many. David's ship, his lifetime, was marked by so many accomplishments and achievements. As his ship re-enters the harbor of eternal life, we gratefully acknowledge the full life that he lived, though our eyes may still be damp with tears. David Hoffman was an incredibly special person to everyone that he knew, which was, let's say it, a lot of people. He made them all feel like friends. All who knew him loved him. We heard so much from children, grandchildren, and friends. I wish to add that Todd and Melanie, who were not born into the Hoffman family but married into it, were also made to feel equally part of it, that he was their father too, not just their father-in-law. And Theo, engaged to Talia, was equally embraced by David, which meant so much to him and to others. From his childhood, Bruce told me, David always assumed a leadership role in seemingly every organization he was a part of, and this would continue through adulthood to our good fortune. In this way, it was not only his family that got to appreciate his humility, his honesty, his passion for sharing wisdom, his kindness and generosity, but so many others in a very wide orbit. The Mishnah in Pirkei Avot teaches, Rabbi Hanina Mendoza taught, when a person's fellow neighbors are pleased with him, God is pleased with him. And this was most certainly true for David Hoffman. I feel very fortunate to have known him over these past few years at the synagogue. For years, I didn't know his amazing backstory, his talents, his passions. Instead, I knew him as a grandfather of this kind family, the Hoffmans, which has a special tradition of bringing my family some prepared food before each and every Rosh Hashanah and Passover. And dropping it off at my house would be David, Brian, one of his grandsons, 3 generations of Hoffmans, continuing a tradition begun by David's own father. This gift was so thoughtful. I thought that first day I met him, this man must be so nice and generous. What a mensch. Even from my first interaction, that was the core of who David was. Yehi Zifro Baruch, may his memory forever be a blessing. Amen. Please rise if you're able. The Chazan continues with the El Maleh Memorial Prayer.
El Maleh Rachamim Shochen Bamromim Hamtzei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanefei Hashchina B'ma'alot Kedoshim Kedoshim Uteorim Kizohar Raki Amazirim Et Nishmat David ben Ber Yitzchak Halevi ve'eti Shehalach le'olamo Began Eden Tehei Menuchato Ana Bala Rachamim Hastireu Beseter Knafecha Leolamim Utzror Bitzror HaChaim Et Nishmato Adonai hu nachalato ve'anuach b'shalom al mishkavo v'nomar Amen.
Amen. El Maleh Rachamim, exalted and compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure to the soul of David Hoffman, David ben Ber Yitzchak Halevi ve'eti, who has gone to his eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that a loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life. May he rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. Sit, stand.
At this time, we call upon the pallbearers to come forward as we escort David Hoffman from the sanctuary. Everyone else, please stay in the sanctuary until he's in the hearse and the family's in the rabbi's study, and then he may return to your cars.